We hate love. We hate caring, but we love money. Well, I don't know, but I
We
tell
hate
you,
joy.
we may not love is tonight's movie that we're covering. We knew it was coming. We're closing the chapter. It is the encore, if you will, because it's the final day of the month and it's our final Sunday. So I had to do one more. Okay, I didn't have to. I could have just said, no, we're going to skip this week. But no, I use this as an opportunity to visit what is considered by many as one of the worst, not only musical movies, but just one of the worst movies out there with a all-star cast. And we are looking at the Bee Gees, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, based off of, yes, the Beatles album, inspired by that as well as just other Beatles music in general, of the same name. So I am looking forward to our conversation tonight as we look at this film from, was it 1978? I believe it was. And I got a wonderful crew here tonight to join me. So thank you for venturing down the stairs, pulling up a chair and popping your favorite drink with us as we talk movie spoilers. I'm drinking Wisconsinably tonight. I am not sponsored by them at all, but the brandy old fashioned, canned brandy old fashioned is good. And I'm classing it up because of this movie. I've got me a red vine straw in my brandy old fashioned because that's how I roll, baby. It's the class, just as classy as this film that we have. And luckily, I have some very classy members, some spoiler room crew here tonight. First off, man, myth, the legend himself. It is Mr. Joe Randazzo. Hello, Joe.
Hey, everyone. I just got my next marching orders from Shudder like a couple minutes before we came on. So that's interesting, too.
Very, very cool. And my right-hand man, he keeps coming back for more. At least we had a good film last week for him, because this week I imagine it was one of those to where it, it's like a burp, of some food that you know. Anyway, it's Mr. Ian Simmons. Yes, how you doing, Ian? I don't know where I was going with that anymore.
I'm going to paraphrase Meatloaf and say, don't be sad. 1 out of 5 ain't bad. And that's my description of November.
Oh, yeah. So Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, brought to you by the Bee Gees with a plethora of cameos and such. And Joe, give us a synopsis of this.
The weird thing is it's very similar, plot-wise. It's your basic kids from a small town going out to Hollywood to make it big, which we saw last week. And I feel like last week it was actually done really well. And this week we're seeing the opposite end of it. Although I will give it this. At least, and I'm going to end up comparing it a lot to Across the Universe because, they're both Beatles musicals in universes where the Beatles don't actually exist, apparently. This one at least felt like a misguided but earnest attempt at doing something to pay tribute to the Beatles. I was more insulted by Across the Universe because that just felt like something a producer just kind of pulled out and went, here, you go work on this because we have the rights to the Beatles. This felt like they actually wanted to do something. It's the best kind of bad movie. It's somebody trying to make something that they think is great and falling flat on their face. So yeah, there really isn't much to synopsize because it really is about a band from a small town who's a town called Heartland. Everything in this movie is going to be on the nose. Everything's going to be on the nose, so we might as well just start with that. Apparently the mayor of Heartland is Mr. Kite, so we know what song's coming up immediately when we see that. Our Beatles stand-ins, who are Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees, are going to head out to Hollywood because Donald Pleasance is going to sign them. Mean Mr. Unfortunately, they have to leave. He has to leave his love, Strawberry Fields. So we know what song's coming up from her, not for her, from her. It would have made more sense if he wrote a song about his true love called Strawberry Fields Forever. But no, she sings it to him. So it kind of sounds egotistical. Strawberry Fields Forever. Turns out she's not forever. She fucking dies. But then she's resurrected, so maybe she is forever. This movie's going to twist and turn all kinds of ways. Our villain is Mean Mr. Mustard, of course, because there's a Beatles song. He lives exactly the same way the Beatles describe it in the song. So, I don't know. What am I missing? George Burns does a terrible song and dance, but at least he's not singing for the benefit of Mr. Kite. And we get Aerosmith coming out with, I said this in our group chat, I can give this movie a little bit of leeway because I didn't realize that this movie was the reason the legendary Aerosmith cover of Come Together exists. So like at least one great thing came out of this movie. That cover.
Yeah, absolutely.
They knocked it out of the park.
When I first saw that when we watched this, which was this morning, I watched it, and my wife, she's been a trooper. I watch these usually Sunday morning, and that's our time when we usually just chill on the couch and share memes and stuff. But lately, I've been watching the film for our show at that time, and so she just sits with me. And this movie, even she was like, until Aerosmith showed up. And then I was like, she's like, oh, well, look how pretty they look. And I'm just like, what? And she's like, oh, nothing. And she's like, oh my. She's like, why? She's like, Strawberry, why are you going with the Bee Gees? You got Aerosmith right there.
The Aerosmith were bad boys, so
they were the bad boys.
She's the beautiful how would I describe the beautiful innocent girl next door looking love. So she can't be with the bad boys. She's got to be with the good guys who are coerced by a massive orgy and getting drugged by Donald Pleasance in a bad wig. That was a terrible wig, but man,
this film is. Go ahead.
This is the same year as Halloween.
I think so.
I just wanted to put that out there.
You know, the interesting thing about that is Pleasance probably thought this was going to be the big movie, and Halloween was just like because Angela Pleasance had to talk him into Halloween. She's like, no, this guy made a great movie called Assault on Precinct 13, and you need to see it. And Pleasance apparently told John Carpenter on set, he's like, I'm only doing this because my daughter says your previous film is excellent.
Well, you know, score one for daughters, I guess. Too bad she.
I mean, it ended up
had the same judgment about this movie.
I mean, he ended up making, you know, that ended up being the biggest role of his career, and he ended up doing 4 sequels to it because he wasn't in 3. So and one ended up being a big boon for the later years of his career. This movie was not.
No. For a reference, Aerosmith's name in this movie was FVB, the Future Villain Band.
Yes, the Future Villain Band, because everything's on the nose. That's the one thing that was interesting watching this and then thinking back to Across the Universe. I'm like, was the Across the Universe trying to almost do a spiritual sequel or remake to this film? Because it's like, you know, they use some of the same songs, and I was just mentally comparing, okay, which one did it better? And I'll give you a hint. As much as we may dive deep and roast this film, which I want to get everyone's, though I think I know what everybody's initial reactions are to this film, that it still is interesting to see how they handle it here versus in Across the Universe. So Ian, this is your first time watching this. You had some comments in the chat. How'd you feel about it when the credits rolled?
Another quote. I'm gonna go back to Dennis Leary on this one. He said, "You know what hell is, folks? It's Andy Gibb singing Shadow Dancing for eons and eons and you have to sit next to the Bay City Rollers. That's pretty much how I felt about this movie. I mean, I lost my mind a few minutes ago when you said our Beatles stand-ins are Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees. I mean, the Beatles were still alive, all of them, when this movie was approved, pitched, approved, paid for as far as licensing. I don't know how they allowed this thing to be released. It's an abomination. It's an atrocity. It's nearly unwatchable aside from the Aerosmith cameo. As I mentioned in our group chat as well, I ended up clearing out 2,000 emails out of my inbox while this is going on. This is the definition of a second screen movie. It doesn't Across the Universe at least had the benefit of connective tissue of scenes where people were not singing at each other. This is, aside from George Burns's Mr. Kite narration, this movie is all just people singing at each other. It goes from one song to the next song. There's no real dialogue breaks, and that's fine, except it brings up the problem that we talked about, Joe, on Across the Universe, is why don't we just turn this off and listen to the Beatles? Like, we're just listening to bad, uninspired covers with the Bee Gees, who's like the height of their acting when they're like distraught at a funeral is to change the angle at which they fluff their hair. We're not getting anything new out of these people.
And even you would think like you get some genuine rock stars like Alice Cooper, and you would think that his cover of, oh God, what did Cooper do?
Drugs.
I forgot what Cooper,
Because.
And you would think, and I think I mentioned this also in our group chat. I'm like, if I went to see Alice Cooper today in his late 70s, and he were to do a cover of Because, and he had done nothing to prepare for it, he could sleepwalk through it better than he performed it here. The arrangement to me made no sense. You have Alice fucking Cooper. Why could you not make this work? Steve Martin do a Maxwell Silver Hammer, I thought would just be like, oh my God, this is, I was having flashbacks to Little Shop of Horrors thinking, oh, he could do something really great with Maxwell Silver Hammer. No, it's awful.
Well, that's because it was just a variation as wild and crazy guy kind of thing, where it's just like shuffling around. Everything's all physical and huge. And I feel like there are slide whistles. It's all just more wacky nonsense. Like, hey, we're going to be outrageous for a few minutes. And it's like, sure. But, and again, this is the disadvantage of us watching this today, especially if this is our first time, is we've had, almost 50 years of stuff in between. I mean, this is, granted, it's a terrible movie, but we've had good movies who've taken the same idea, the same material, roughly, and done amazing things with it. So we're comparing it to all that. There wasn't much of a comparison in 1978, but thankfully people recognized even then it was bad.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, even 50 years ago, people knew this wasn't any good. I think this movie has the benefit of there being what I think is a much worse Beatles musical that came out 30 years later. So in comparison, I was like, you know what, this isn't that bad. I lived through hell 2 weeks ago.
To me, I can't draw a real distinction. I think they're both awful in their own ways, but the result is still the same. Like, I do not want to finish this movie. With Across the Universe, I'll at least give it there were a couple of things that I kind of liked. Like I mentioned, the scene where he goes into the communist newspaper and he has that fight with his girlfriend and all that stuff. Yeah. That was kind of cool. There was also the visual effects, even though, they're 20 years old now or whatever, and they look kind of dodgy. At least they're trying something kind of interesting with the visuals. In 1978, it was very stagey. Like, they didn't have computer graphics or anything to get really fancy with stuff. So it's like, okay, we've got some kind of cool sets, some outrageous costumes, some neat choreography. But again, it just comes down to, this isn't really a story. It's just a bunch of songs with, as you mentioned, Joe, a very loose skeleton of a plot that's been done a billion times, will be done a billion times into the future. The one thing you did leave out is your synopsis, which was very much ahead of its time, and something that we see in movies left and right nowadays, is the gamification of the plot. Because in the middle of the movie, the band's instruments get stolen and then dispersed around town. And so they have to go find like, oh, where's the tuba? Where's the trumpet? Or
Yeah,
whatever.
it became a series of fetch quests.
Yes. Yes. And even then, the only redeeming part was there were two things. One, it's kind of like the ticking clock. So by the time they get the third instrument, I'm like, okay, we only have one more to go, and then the movie's over, right? But the thing is, the second instrument, I think they just randomly find it.
Yeah, because it was the drum. Because the FVB was by computer to Mr. Mustard's realty RV and home. They were via the computer, and the two female robots that were also in his RV commanded him to keep the drum set. He could keep it, but they had to give the trumpet to Dr. Maxwell. He had to give the tuba to Father's son, who was Alice Cooper. They give the saxophone to the FVB, and then he got to keep the drums. So they found the drum set after they get the trumpet from Mr. Maxwell.
Right, and I'm just saying that saved us like 10 minutes of movie. So that was a high point.
It did. But what's hilarious too is I love how that became a focal point till it didn't. Like the fourth one is the saxophone. It's like they don't even address them getting the saxophone from the FVB once they defeat the lead singer. It's just like suddenly they don't even mention the fourth instrument. It's like the instrument just like they don't even talk about it after they get the tuba from Mr. Son. The father's son. They don't talk about any of that.
Well, I mean, the thing with the final instrument is Strawberry Fields died during that encounter.
Yes, we get Shitty Dummy.
All the music left their lives, man.
It's true.
Speaking of that dummy, you can see when they lift it, they lift that casket up so easily, you can tell there's no body in it.
It's even better though when that happens, when the structure that she's tied to as FVB is singing "Go Figure" come together as it is the villainy part of where they're supposed to be launching their new army that has been trained by that's been trained by Father's son to hate love, to hate whatever caring, but love money. Yeah, when there's that explosion and the structure she's on, the big lighted ball falls, you can tell it's like a dummy that's strapped. It's just like flop. I love Shitty Dummy. I love
bad dummies can make a movie more fun.
I will say it's the dark point. It's the dark point. There's a couple dark points in this musical, that surprised me a bit. Like the band leaves to go sign on with was it BD Records, which the records their logo is definitely made to look similar to Rhino. Was it Rhino or not Rhino? What record label is it? The Bull. I forgot offhand right now. I failed, but it's made to look similar to that. So while they go off, like they leave, Mustard like buys the entire town, which means the land value in Heartland must have been piss poor because he just buys the whole town and instantly it turns into like, what Hill Valley looked like when Biff Tannen took it over.
Just thinking that, yep.
Oddly enough, it's the same set.
It is the same set. You're right. Oh my god!
It didn't click with you right away. As soon as we saw it, like, oh my god, it's Hill Valley.
It's fucking Hill Valley. That's right. Because it's the same backlot.
Came out nothing. Well, yeah, it's all on the Universal backlot.
Yeah.
The Mr. Mustard's bus kind of looks like the Electric Mayhem bus to the point where I'm wondering if it was the same bus.
Just redressed.
Yeah, once Back to the Future came out, you cannot use that set for anything else. Even stuff that came out before it, like there was an episode of Boris Karloff's Thriller in like 1960 before Psycho came out, but they used the exterior of the house that's now the Psycho house. And I remember watching that come on TV one night. I'm like, oh my god, they're in the Psycho house. Psycho hadn't come out yet. It was just a house on the lot that they used for horror movies. And that's kind of like what this set became. It's Hill Valley now. It doesn't matter if this movie came out in 1935. That's still Hill Valley.
Because that's the same set they used in Gremlins too, I think.
Gremlins also.
Gremlins as well. When it does that opening scene, you look like it, and you're like, "Oh, this is in Hill Valley." What do you? Oh man!
Yeah, you could if you have a keen enough eye and you know enough Universal history, you're going to recognize a lot of those. One of the places I could swear is the Delta House from Animal House.
Oh yeah,
I saw that as one of them. But yeah, they've been using those forever now, man. They're all used for when I toured the Universal lot. 1313 Mockingbird Lane, the Delta House, and all those were all houses on Wisteria Lane on Desperate Housewives. Now, I have pictures of them on my Facebook. I'll send them to you later. I'm like, this because I looked at the outside. I'm like, dude, that's the Munsters house. I snapped a picture of it. I was like, that can't be. And it turns out it was.
Yeah, I mean. So you can tell it's the back lot. They're trying, it is at least a tried and true musical in that the only speaking part you get is George Burns being the narrator. Otherwise, everything moved by the characters and everything is songs from the Beatles catalog, their later catalog. Stuff that. Well, like I said, we were watching it. We mentioned Strawberry Fields. They do a Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. They don't wait till the credits, though. At one point, Strawberry Fields, because she's tired of how corrupt Mustard has made Heartland, to the point where, you have punk rockers in the arcade, which is a cool arcade. I would have played at that arcade. But, you have a adult theater and all of this stuff. So she hops out of
theater next to an adult bookstore.
Yes.
You go from one porn place to the other one right next to it.
And so she hops out of bus and heads out to LA, and they use that her leaving for another Beatles.
She's leaving home.
She's leaving home. And so when she arrives, I don't know how. This is before CGI, so I don't know how they got her eyes to be that big, but she gets off the bus and she just stares at. They've got the billboard of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band right next to Lucy and the Diamonds,
which is in the sky.
Which is in the
sky.
And that's the all-female group who is used to help seduce Sergeant Pepper. Stay with me, folks. They use the band Lucy and the Diamonds to help seduce Sergeant Pepper and his band to stay in L.A. and sign the contract.
They use LSD to...
and they do this whole thing with, it's actually a very large set. Some of the set pieces on here are huge. It's two huge stages. They come together as Lucy and the Diamonds as they're dancing. This is what Strawberry Fields, God, these names. Strawberry Fields is picturing in her head. The minute she gets off the bus, she suspects that Sergeant Pepper and the band are in flagrante delicto with Lucy and the Diamonds. This is just her imagination. She just hopped off the bus, saw the sign, and they do Lucy in the Sky. And Lucy and the Diamonds, they lose their clothing as they dance. It's really weird. And I'm just like, how does she literally got off the bus and just see the two billboards, and her brain immediately goes, they're cheating on me. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's quite the leap. It's like, the person from Billboard A is clearly fucking the person from Billboard B, and you're like, it's quite a leap to make, but
we do kind of feel like it feels kind of like Rock of Ages, because those elements are in Rock of Ages, but they're done well. Julianne Hough getting off the bus and seeing the big kind of weird corrupt city, and then the whole misunderstanding with seeing her boyfriend, or the boyfriend seeing her with the big rock star. Those elements are here, but they just don't make any sense. How are we going to talk about this movie for an hour? I don't know, because there's like that. At the same time, I feel like I could talk about this movie for 6 hours, but then I'd have a train that I'd need to catch the front of. I don't Help me out, guys.
It's just, well, the tough part is for the runtime they have, there's a lot of things. You end up getting almost two villains in here. You get Donald Pleasance and the evil, a commercial record label corrupting our Good Boys band, who have one member of the band. There's a lot of like lovely ideas that are just introduced and then just like never explored. Like the brothers for our Sgt. Pepper's band. Let's rewind a bit. I know we've jumped in and we're around. Let me jump back and go. The first thing my wife asked when we were watching it is, what is it with these rock musicals and war? Because once again, we have a rock musical that opens and faces the subject of war.
Well, it's 1978. Vietnam is 3 years in the past, but it had been going on for, over a decade at that point. So yeah, it's still fresh on people's minds. And you got to imagine when this was being done, it was probably towards the very tail end of the war, maybe even a little bit after. So it's a hot topic. It's, got the youth up in arms still probably. So yeah, I understand that, but looking back on it now, especially when you're talking about musicals of this period, it can get very repetitive. And especially much like Across the Universe, it's like, who cares? This isn't really about that. You left it all out and have the same result.
Well, no, you have to care because that makes Sgt. Pepper's band magical, because they open it with the war to end all wars, World War I. And they're like, the war was on the brink. Everybody was really going to lose. And then Sgt. Pepper saved the world by marching in full band in very bright outfits through the German side and the U.S. side, bringing people together with music. And Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is the band that got everybody through all the tough times, including World War II and the Depression and everything. And that's where our young boys come in, because our young boys are chosen to be the successors of Sgt. Pepper and the original ones. They're going, and this is the new ones. But we have one brother who's greedy and the other one who is chosen because he's got the musical talent. And I'm like, oh, okay, so we're setting up a kind of a villainy thing where the brother is, but they don't really do that. I mean, they do, but the brother's really not a villain. And they talk about him being greedy, but I'm just like, he's just being a manager. But of the managers we've seen in the rock musicals we've watched this year, he's probably the least evil rock manager out of them. He's just doing business.
Well, there was that one scene where he and his girlfriend broke in and they saw the giant cartoon bags of $ money, and they had their indecent proposal moment in there. But going back to this, I mean, the whole thing of the Sgt. Pepper's, the original incarnation of it, solving, basically creating world peace by marching through war zones. That does still tie back into Vietnam, the idea of like the protest, kind of like being something that people thought idealistically helped to end the war. What if we applied that throughout history? But you could just make this a movie about a band called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, formed by 3 guys who happen to look like the Bee Gees and 1 guy who happen to look like Frampton, coming out of this small town, getting discovered, and then you're off to the races, thereby saving 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning of this awful movie.
But you needed montage. You needed the montage of the song.
But
you can show them blow drying their hair like from different angles. There's your montage.
I mean, the other thing about these movies and wars, you also have to look at who the three bands were. Rock of Ages takes place in the 80s, where there really wasn't any. The rest of these bands are all bands who came up in the 60s. Mm-hmm. So you got Pink Floyd, The Who, and the Beatles. And the Beatles are one of the biggest anti-war bands ever when you look at their late 60s catalog. So,
But that's
4 of the 5 remain or I'm sorry, 3 of the 5 remain in the same time period, which was, like Ian said, just after Vietnam.
But this is the big irony of this and Across the Universe. I mean, you talk about the Beatles being one of the biggest anti-war bands ever, and yet after coming out of both of these movies, which featured their music, all they did was want to fight people.
Yeah, I feel like the filmmakers fundamentally misunderstood a lot of this, a lot of the music, because it didn't feel right at times. Oh, something just fell off my.
It's awkward. It is so awkward because you get the feeling they're trying, and the producers of this probably think, oh man, we've got the next, big thing here. We're using Beatles songs. We've got the Bee Gees. We got Frampton in here. We've got all these cameos in here.
Why is because a villain song? Like, that doesn't make sense lyrically when you listen to the lyrics. Like, I don't understand that. Mean Mr. Mustard makes sense. I don't understand why some of these songs were used in the way they were.
Or the 65 when I'm
64, yeah.
When I'm 64, literally, folks, at one point, because Mustard who you think is going to be a main villain suddenly kind of becomes a side villain. Like everything else, everything that you thought was going to be like a main focus suddenly becomes a side thing and not a main. They tried
too many different things. Like they couldn't decide on who the real villain was, so they both became side villains.
And they had Carl Stroiken play Mr. Mustard's sidekick, and he would go on to play Lurch in the Addams Family back in.
And the giant in Twin Peaks.
It's his first film. It was his first film.
Really? Yeah, he was. That's great.
And he was in Men in Black as well.
That's right. Yeah,
this was his first film to be in, and he's with Mr. Mustard, the realtor, who's the villain, who's also got a crush on Strawberry Fields.
Well, he abducts her, and he's singing "When I'm 64" to Strawberry Fields.
Yeah, which is weird because there's this whole section. He's got this thing where, and if you think this podcast tonight, folks, has been all over the place, you obviously haven't watched Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, because we go from a story of guys who get corrupt from the commercialism of the big label and taking the heart out of Heartland, and then Heartland getting corrupted by commercialism and greed of the realtor, to suddenly Magic Instruments, to the realtor taking a side angle to we get the FVB, who are actually the villains, but no, we also have there's so many different plot threads going on in here. But eventually Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band realizes what they've done. They go after their instruments, but they abandon going after the fourth one. They go for 3, and then their new manager, played by Donald Pleasance with a really bad wig, decides to have a benefit for Heartland, because they've discovered Heartland has become this cesspool and it needs help. And so they hold this benefit. And so they come into town doing the Mr. Kite routine. And then they're holding Earth, Wind, and Fire show up, which is one of the better highlights of this movie.
Yes.
Is Earth, Wind, and Fire showing up, because you're like, oh, cool. We've actually got people singing Beatles songs, not like squares. And so Strawberry Fields gets kidnapped by Mustard. And yes, he ties her up completely. And he's singing When I'm 64. And then at one point they have her do it. It becomes a duet between the two. And you're like, wait, what's going on here? Because she starts singing
wondering, did they think we're going to be subversive. We're going to have something that should be a duet between Peter Frampton and Strawberry Fields, be a duet between Strawberry Fields and her abductor. It just feels strange. When I'm 64 is, a song about, hey, when I'm apparently in the 70s, when you were 64, you were enfeebled, because a lot of this is, hey, I'm going to be useless. Will you take care of me?
Well, I mean, there is something to that, because 64 was a lot older in the 1970s.
That's true.
Because that's people who had come up during several wars.
Yeah.
But that is the weird thing about it. Will you still need me when I'm 64? No, because you're my kidnapper.
Yeah, she doesn't need you now. She doesn't want you now.
Well, never mind the fact they're singing this while while our heroes decide to hop in a hot air balloon and chase after them because
I need your help
Because
with
the world
this.
is round.
No, it's not. Wait, sorry. I need your help with something because I think this might be a case of really bad editing, or I missed something and I didn't care to rewind because that would make the movie go on longer. The guys get into this hot air balloon and they go up, and there's a scene where they're up in the sky, and then we see a plane like coming at them, and it's implied that the plane intersects with the balloon, and the next thing we see is this plane flying by. You see them in the plane, like up in the clouds. I'm like, oh, did they die and they're being transported into heaven? Because the pilot says like, oh, this is the land of dreams, or the land where everything, all your wishes come true, or something. It's like, oh, so this movie's about them like being in heaven or something. I don't know, but no, they're just going to Hollywood. What happened to the balloon?
The pilot was nice enough. Oh shit! I popped your hot air balloon. Why don't you guys hop a ride with me?
In midair, he dove down and collected them, and
they were getting artistic with it. It's the metaphor. They just took the hot air balloon to the bigger airport and then hopped on the plane with Brockhurst. They didn't have Brockhurst. That was Donald Pleasant, the manager. They hopped on the plane and took it. They just don't show you that part because that would have made the movie too long to watch the hot air balloon go to the airport and then have them get in the plane and then the plane. No, they just that's being artistic, transition wise to, oh, look, now they're in the plane. And then they land, and you have Brockhurst, who has this wonderful vehicle that sounds like the land speeder from Star Wars.
There's
literally
a few Star Wars cues in here.
There's literally it sounds like that, and he's got his assistant who really wants our main character, because they sing the song of I
Want You, yeah.
I Want You.
Donald Pleasant starts singing it, and it's okay, I want you, like I want to sign you, but that's not what the song implies.
But then the secretary's driving, and she's like looking at the rearview mirror going, I want you. And then Dougie next to her, the manager of our Sgt. Pepper's band, is like, I want you. And so they move it between the three. My wife also mentioned, and I have to agree, this is a creepy fucking movie. Everybody in this film are fucking creepers.
Well, yeah, you have that weird that weird Roman orgy scene, like right at the beginning too. That comes off kind of weird. Because Donald Pleasant's roofies, one of them, I don't remember
as
which
they
one.
Drink from these huge
giant
glasses, like
flutes,
these like huge glasses, and he gets them to sign their contract while they're drunk and in the thralls of being seduced.
And those contracts would not hold up in court, by the way.
Those contracts are also 60 feet long for some reason. They just keep
64.
Oh, 64. Oh, another Beatles cue. Man, this movie's clever.
That's the most hilarious thing, though, is you think this story is about, the town, and then you're going to have a very urgent Strawberry Fields go back to the band who's now become very popular in just 1 week, and have to come back and save the town. But we don't get that, and the Mustard storyline gets abandoned for like 40 minutes as we watch the band in various scenes get seduced a number of times by Lucy and the Diamonds and become very popular on TV and have concerts every day of the month that are sold out. And what's funny is some of the things in here, like we get these titles cards where, and I'm not joking, after they get seduced and they sign the contract, I think it's after, they have there's a on-screen graphic that says, and in 1 week we watch them go from small town band to nation, worldwide sensations, in 1 week. And it's like, it's meant to be a punchline. And there's a couple other times in here where you're like, they're like making fun of the record industry, but it's done so poorly, and the rest of the film leading up to it is such a mess. It gets lost. You're just like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's also because those title cards are done in like the silent era fonts with the bracketing.
Yeah.
But they're also superimposed on the film, which isn't how silent movie cards work. They were cutaways to black with the text on them. So again, it's just, hey, it's artistic, it's referencing the movie, so let's put it in here without giving a thought to, does it make any damn sense? Is it funny? Is it entertaining? Does it have a reason to be here? Which, I guess they figure we're making a movie where Frampton and the Bee Gees are playing the Beatles. Doesn't, we're already over the cliff, so who cares?
What were we talking about last week and why Rock of Ages worked? It's keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, and this has so many subplots again that you just kind of get lost in it. And at some point it becomes exhausting because you're trying to follow all these various subplots and none of them pay off really. Like you said, everything becomes a side plot.
Yeah. Well, you're trying to follow them. I was just trying to, filter through my Gmail and make sure I got everything before I hit that delete button and not delete anything that was, important, even if it was really old. But I take your point. Yeah.
Well, and then I would like to talk to you about my car's warranty. But I'd rather do that than watch this movie.
Even their side plots weren't put together completely because they literally could have spent most of the time with Mustard's obsession over Strawberry Fields, because you then have him going against, going with his feelings versus what he's been told by the FVB, who have two female robots who are under their control. There's a whole thing you could do just with that, with him trying to get Fields and, having your band trying to get back, but running into like challenges every time to go rescue Strawberry Fields. You could have done, but they don't do it. They just like, hey, we could connect these songs. The Beatles songs tell stories. We could connect. It's like Across the Universe in very much the same way, in that they're like, we have these songs. They tell stories. Let's connect them together.
You just mentioned you didn't mention Get Back the song. You said they had to get back. That would have been a great place to put Get Back instead of at the very end of the movie where you just have everybody being resurrected.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's funny is that it takes a dark, surprising turn at first to where I was like, wow, okay, they actually did something, because we get where they're confronting the FBM, the bands are fighting, and they toss the leader of the FVB, Steven Tyler gets thrown off, and he lands in the most cliche way ever. Folks, when you fall off a cliff, just before you die from the impact of the ground, make sure you turn your right leg at a 90-degree angle and put your arms like one above your head and one to your side, because that's like the stereotypical pose of anyone ever tossed off and landing on the ground after being tossed off a cliff. And he had his microphone next to him. But then we did that, and we mentioned before how suddenly there's an explosion, and suddenly Strawberry Fields dies. And I was like, okay, this film may actually just a little bit redeem itself. Is she actually dead? I'm like, no, they didn't really kill her, did they?
My reaction too. Wait, what?
And I'm like, did they really kill Strawberry? And then they cut to this massive town funeral scene where the town's been cleaned up now because Mustard's gone. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is something that I can latch on to. I'm like, they actually had some kind of weight thing, and they're going with it, because what's his name goes, Frampton's go. We're just calling them by their actors. They go off. He goes off singing about, I forgot which song.
Golden Slumber, and then as they're lifting the casket, they switch to, as it goes on the album, Golden Slumber leads into Carry That Weight.
Yes.
And as they literally lift the coffin, boy, you're going to carry that weight.
Yes, like, oh. Yes, they do. But I'm like, okay, she's actually dead. Awesome. And then, the filmmakers are like, Yeah. And they suddenly have the weather vane that was symbolizing Sergeant
Well,
Pepper, the original.
Before that, though, Peter Frampton goes to commit suicide by jumping
Yes.
off of the building, and that's when the weather vane goes nuts.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah, because this whole segment at the end, I'm like, wow, did they take this weird, bubbly, bizarre film and actually give it a little weight at the end? Strawberry Fields is actually dead. You've got the lead singer actually in depression. The band is like, there's not inspired. The town is down. And then they show him on top of that. Yeah, they show him on top, like going to jump. And I'm like, oh shit, are they actually going to have him like jump? But there's no pool underneath him, like in Tommy. I'm like, okay. And then just as he's about to jump, the weather vane, he jumps just as he's land. Excuse me, just as he's about to land. Thank you. It's hard to keep all the details of it. So yeah, Strawberry Fields died. They do their funeral thing. He's about to jump off in depression. He jumps off, stops midair by a bolt of energy that comes from the weather vane that's shaped like the original Sergeant Pepper. But the original Sergeant Pepper doesn't appear as Sergeant Pepper. Instead, we get Billy Preston, who is the exact opposite of Sergeant Pepper, the original Sergeant Pepper. And he starts, he saves Frampton. He reverses him, so he's back on the stage. And then all of a sudden, poof, Strawberry Fields is back. And as Sergeant Pepper dances through town, he energizes everyone back to the way they were. I'm like, wow, you took the part that I was actually enjoying and now ruined it. It was great to see Billy Preston. Do not get me wrong. I loved seeing him in that. But as far as the narrative goes, way to pull the rug out from under me again and just go, screw you guys.
Also, because they didn't bother changing the lyrics to get back, he's just calling everybody by the wrong names.
Yes.
We can't just change the lyrics to the characters' names, or we could have named the characters so that they were the names that they were JoJo and all that stuff from JoJo and Loretta, because they're calling Strawberry Fields Loretta because.
Well, that's her resurrected name. Yeah,
she's now Loretta.
Now. Get back to where you once belonged, but not with the same name. We're giving you a totally new name.
Well, and they didn't have anybody to electrify. So the first phrase, JoJo thought he was a woman, but he was another man. He's got to dance on the steps because they've got nothing in the film to.
Well, they turned Mr. Mustard and Carol Stroiken into nuns,
an archbishop,
a bishop and a nun, and then like random people on the street get turned into like nuns.
Dougie and the secretary get turned into religious people too.
Yeah, and they all seem upset that they got turned into people wearing nuns' habits, and I'm like, well, you clearly didn't change your mindset, so you could just go change your clothes back. You can clearly just go, I'm not a nun, so I'm not going to wear this. I'm going to go change it to whatever. I don't know. Maybe we're idiots, and this is like working on like a level that the three of us are never going to be at. No. Maybe we just haven't done enough LSD.
Well, here's another question I have for you, because if you noticed this. And at first I thought, oh, it's a fashion thing. But then I'm like, no, this looks like a mistake. It's shortly before this, when Barry Gibb is walking out of a building and he's like got this brand new yellow shirt on. It's a very yellow shirt. He like lifts his arms up because he's again teasing his hair. And you can see there are two slits right at the armpits underneath this like regular dress shirt. Did you catch that?
I didn't catch.
Go back. The only reason I would recommend going back to watch part of this movie is to look for those slits, because I'm like, was that like a thing where on set he was perspiring too much, they had to air it out or something? But it was the strangest thing I ever saw, because it doesn't look like it's part of the design. It looks like it's like utilitarian or something.
I'm not sure. I'm really not. And I do have the vinyl soundtrack though, which I listened to. And yeah, Aerosmith track and the Earth, Wind and Fire track are probably the best thing on there, though they didn't give Earth, Wind and Fire the best song to cover of the Beatles songs. I was like, they make the best of it, but I'm like, out of all the songs, you gave them that one. Though that did chart at number 15, apparently, on the Billboard.
Oh, the Earth, Wind and Fire cover did?
Yeah.
How high up in the charts did Come Together go?
23, actually. So
really?
Yeah.
Earth, Wind and Fire charted higher. Okay.
They charted higher. But even still, watching this and having them perform the Bee Gees and Frampton, I'm like, look, the Beatles, you know, they're iconic, their sound and everything, but let's face it, they aren't exactly soulful. It can come off as a little square. I'm like, I didn't think someone could sing Beatles songs more square than the Bee Gees and Frampton do. I mean, they're literally like, I'm like, how do you do this with these songs? I mean,
I don't think anyone can really accuse the Beatles of ever being square. I mean, even their heavier songs are sincere, and I think they're trippy and out there. The biggest problem, I think, with this movie is that you've got A Hard Day's Night out there featuring the Beatles, it's an actual movie with musical numbers that are based on them being the Beatles and performing different places. Plus, they have a natural charisma and comedy chops to get all out. So it's one of the all-time great comedies and one of the all-time great music movies with music in them. It's not exactly a musical, but it's close. Right. And then you've got this, and there's part of me that wonders, I haven't looked into this, but my theory is
we get a little echo.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. There we go. It's gone now.
Oh, okay. My theory is that at some point there was dialogue in this movie, but someone decided that Frampton and the Bee Gees were such terrible actors that they're like, you know, we'll cut all this other stuff out and just have them sing at each other, because it's so odd to have the Beatles represented in a movie. I mean, hell, even Yellow Submarine gave them things like do and say to each other. That was a damn cartoon. It was much better than this movie. So yeah, it's like, if you're gonna make a movie about the Beatles, first of all, don't get Frampton and the Bee Gees to play them. Second of all, if you're gonna get someone to play them, allow them to be the Beatles. It's not just all about the music; it's about who they are.
Well, that's what I mean. I guess I didn't mean to imply that the Beatles were square. I'm just saying that they could take a song that the Beatles had and just make it so square. Like, just like, there's no, like, you hear these tracks from them that they cover and you're just like, there's no oomph to them. Because the Bee Gees themselves aren't, I mean, their style is not a Beatles style. They are not,
especially not late 60s Beatles.
Yeah.
Like, if this was, you know, like I Want to Hold Your Hand Beatles.
Right.
Then okay, you could probably get the Bee Gees to do a light, fluffy.
I can totally see them covering that song. Wow. That makes
and
that
I probably
makes
no
sense.
problem with them covering that song.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just
I want to hold your hand. Yeah. Totally do that.
Hold your hand.
Yeah, while they're staying alive, they're going to hold each other's hands.
But yes, I have the reason I have the album, and pardon my side note, is because of the world's largest trivia contest in Wisconsin. That's held in Wisconsin every year. They had a question. They show pictures, and you have to have a question about the picture. And the picture was George Burns holding the guitar. And that was the picture. That's all there was. There's no context or everything. And you have to figure out where it came from. And I figured out where it came from, and I bought the album for it. I found it really. It comes with this poster. It comes with a huge poster as well. I know the podcaster folks who do the audio only can't see this, but it actually still came with this poster. Here, I'm gonna display it. There, you prepare yourself.
Wow. Is that vintage? Or is that like a reissue? Is that the original album?
This is the original 78 album.
That's the poster's in really good condition.
Yes, everything in it is actually really good condition, except for the discount binned hole in it. But those are harder to avoid nowadays, not unless you want to pay a premium price. But in any case, So that's what sparked my knowledge of this, because wasn't even sure. I just knew the album. I didn't know the movie until I saw the picture, and then I saw this album, and then when I heard about it and read up on it, I'm like, I got to work it into the spoiler room sometime. And here we are. So that's the journey of why we have, when I needed a fifth movie for our Rockin' World Month, I'm like, oh, this one. Because we knew what was going in. It is historically considered a bad film. The folks who have been in it consider it a bad film. Word is the Bee Gees wanted to drop out of production 2 weeks into the film.
Oh.
Word is too.
So they knew that early.
And apparently Frampton got conned into being on the movie. He didn't realize this was the movie he was going to be pulled into and agree to. Apparently there was a management thing or whatnot that he ended up on it. And Alice Cooper, and now this is on the Fam Wiki, but apparently it is from an interview. Alice Cooper, who plays the most un-Alice Cooper role in the movie. I mean, he does not have the guy. He's a guy watching a boxing match, and they make him with this kind of greasy hair, and like you're just like, what the hell is he like? Bob Dylan from hell or something? I don't know. But in any case, Alice Cooper is quoted by saying, "Nobody realized what a stinker it was, and as soon as they were in the middle of it, everybody says, you know what? This is absolutely blasphemous to the Beatles."
But you know what? They probably all had to stay in because of those contracts.
Yep.
Those evil contracts.
and there's this other quote from David Anson from Newsweek, who dismissed Sgt. Pepper as a film with a dangerous resemblance to wallpaper.
You know what? You know, it'd be fun. Someone should make a comedy, kind of like they did with was a movie they made about The Room a few years ago.
The Disaster Artist.
The Disaster Artist. Someone should do a Disaster Artist for Sgt. Pepper.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. That would be impressive. I'd watch that. That'd be interesting.
Well, the 50th anniversary of this movie is coming up in a couple of years, so there's time for someone to jump on that right now.
And the thing is that the director of this is not a slouch.
Oh no, Mike Schultz. He's from Wisconsin. He's a Wisconsinite.
Woohoo!
He also did Car Wash, which was written by Joel Schumacher.
Yes, I love Car Wash.
Cooley High, and he also did The Last Dragon. He got out of director jail long enough after this movie to make The Last Dragon in the 80s. Yeah.
And the epic Disorderlies. Oh yeah. But hey, don't judge me. I like Disorderlies, but
look, it's nothing compared to Are You Ready for Freddy? If you want some true Fat Boys comedy.
Well, it is true that there isn't. That is kind of the peak there. But as far as this goes, this seems like, again, in all honesty, history repeated itself with Across the Universe, though this one, I would argue, had a little bit more talent involved, only because you had some bigger names maybe in it, actual artists. But they are very similar in films in many respects, as far as some of their characters and how they're structured or not structured.
Misused.
I like the Mr. Kite routine in Sgt. Pepper's better than I liked it in Across the Universe.
I hated it in Across the Universe.
The Mr. Kite one in Across the Universe sucks. At least this one, they've got a circus coming to town, literally. they were, at least it felt a little bit more natural than whatever they were trying to do in Across the Universe. And I'm glad you brought up A Hard Day's Night, Ian, because there are segments in here where you could tell they thought they were being creative and go, hey, you know how in A Hard Day's Night and some of the other Beatles movies where they did the fast moving action to where they sped it up at like 3 times the speed with a goofy kind of Keystone vibe? We could do that here, only when they do it here, it's not funny. at all.
Well, you don't have the natural charm that the Beatles had.
No. Well, by the time they do it, most of the time, it's just like, oh, okay, that was a choice because what they're doing isn't really interesting either. They're loading stuff into a vehicle. Ooh, you know. And while I'm all for musicals telling a story through nothing but the songs as true musicals, I think you needed some dialogue in here because the motivation of Dougie and Brockhurst's secretary stealing the money from the town for themselves, you're not quite sure, first off, if they're motivated stealing it for themselves, what that money actually is for. Because they mention, hey, that's another thing. They go, hey, you know what? We should do a benefit for Heartland. And all of a sudden we cut to the Bee Gees at Frampton doing Mr. Kite. And you're like, oh, they must agreed to have done to put
they
together.
Already put it together.
But I'm like, but you're just sitting there going, but wait, didn't they hate their agent? Why are they now working with their agent?
Why not? It's Hollywood, man. It's magic. So, it's funny because you said, the agent throws together this thing because they hear Heartland is, in dire straits. I'm like, no, he throws it together because he realized they needed to perform for the benefit of Mr. Kite.
They needed to do
the
song.
Character Mr. Kite, so you have to do, you have to do the song.
Again, it's one of those subplots that just vaporizes, but then they come back because you forget about the agent for a while. You think, oh, we're done with it. The band's cut him off because they're trying to make it back to Heartland. But no, they hold the benefit because since Sgt. Pepper's band has been out and headed back to Strawberry Fields to try to save Heartland, they haven't been performing, and therefore there's no money anymore. And the agent holds the benefit in order to revitalize the popularity of Sgt. Pepper's band, which apparently has faded. I'm like, there's a whole movie right there, and they just like 2 sentences, and then they move. It was
so, like your complaint about Across the Universe. There's no gravity to anything. Nothing feels important because they just keep moving to something else.
What if Mr. Kite had a terminal disease and they need to raise a lot of money, and the Bee Gees / Peter Frampton decide they're going to play a rock concert for the benefit of Mr. Kite?
See?
That could be your movie right there.
That's a
They're
hook.
Trying
right
to put
there.
it together.
That's a hook right there. Apparently, another little bit of trivia: Sir Paul McCartney and Sir Ringo Starr did appear at the premiere for this film, and then after watching it, shunned the film. John Lennon and George Harrison refused to see the movie.
And the two who are still alive attended, and the 2 who refused died. There's a conspiracy theory to be had there. The Bee Gees had them both whacked, baby. It took them a long time to get to Harrison.
Well, the Bee Gees also blame this film for their downward decline, and apparently they also didn't think highly of Frampton. So it's interesting that they were in a film together because they thought he was just a young upstart, and they had been around for a while at this point. And yeah, you're right. Someone needs to make a movie documentary of the making of this film, because I bet you it is fascinating, including the final scene, folks. We can't end this podcast without talking about the final song of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which they close out, which features every single artist known to man.
Whoever was on the Universal lot that week.
Well, apparently it was decided they'd assemble an enormous roster of celebrities to sing the reprise of Sgt. Pepper's The Lonely Hearts Club Band. So formal invitations were engraved and sent to virtually everyone in the entertainment industry. The many who RSVP'd were treated to first-class transportation to LA, limos, hotels, champagne and lavish catered dinner, and private tents for each of the stars in the studio's garden room.
What?
But no pay?
I don't know, but it's really weird when you're in a musical and you're watching other bands that you know are actual bands who are performing songs, and the first scene of the montage of cameos in the big, huge finale is Carol Channing. I'm like, she shows up, they put her at the first frame, and I'm like, Carol Channing? Like, where'd she come from?
Wolfman Jack? Tina Turner? Wait, what?
Elton John? What the hell? Who?
You know, it's interesting. You said, a documentary about the making of this film might be really fascinating. There probably is one on a Blu-ray, but no one's ever bought it. So we don't know for sure.
Possibly.
It would have been cool if Dan Aykroyd someone should just use AI to insert Dan Aykroyd into that scene to make it even more like We Are the World. I want to rewind back a bit to the bit where Frampton's character is in mourning and he goes to the house and he's crying over strawberry fields.
The worst fake tears ever.
Yeah. He's drenched. His face is it looks like they've got the glue tears on his face and they spritzed him to make sure he is really crying, everybody, because his face, the actual expression is just he hasn't started acting yet. Looks sad. And his face is just wet. And then when he goes to step off the ledge and then he falls down, I'm sorry, but him being saved by that magical laser, that's what transformed a very happy ending into a sad ending for me.
Well, here's the thing. Had they actually had that happen, or do the 70s cliche of freeze frame of him midair,
yes,
and then you cut to credits and you do the Sgt. Pepper reprise. No big finale or what, just he jumps off, freeze frame him halfway in midair, and then you do credits, and you're like, at least you gave this film an ending. But by having Sgt. Pepper appear and laser everyone singing Get Back, you're like, you've completely reset this entire movie to basically make it so that nothing mattered except that the FVB died.
I mean, ultimately, that's my issue with these movies, these kind of cop-out endings. It's only a dream. Let's reset everything. Unfortunately, it makes the entire viewing experience completely pointless.
I like the idea of the freeze frame, but what would have made it more perfect is if you actually see Frampton's body fall and he lands in that same position as Steven Tyler's did. And then you freeze frame and cut to
you freeze frame. Yeah, another odd, interesting bullet dodged. Kiss was approached to be the FVB. They turned down the role, fearing the movie would hurt their image, and instead started in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park that same year.
Which somehow is not as bad for their image as this movie was for everyone involved.
Here's my question. Would they have been in full Kiss regalia, or are we talking about just the guys without makeup? Because would people have put it together oh my God, that's Kiss?
Nobody recognized their album, the one album cover they had with none of their makeup. Everybody looked at it and went, "Who's that?" Wait, Kiss? That's Kiss? What?
That's the thing, is I could see if they were in the full getup that could damage their image, but ultimately they made the right decision. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just curious what that would have been like.
Who would have thought the biggest whores in the entertainment industry who monetize everything? They're all about the money. We're like, you know what? We're gonna pass on this. This is gonna make us look bad. Not the branded coffins. This.
Do you think that's what the Bee Gees found out 2 weeks in, that Kiss, they dropped out? What?
Wait, Kiss has too much pride to do this movie?
Well, Oh, we didn't have enough pride not to watch this, or at least ask my panel here not to watch it. So, which
You were worried about us going an hour on this movie. We're at an hour 10.
We'll wrap it up here. Yes, this is historically bad. It is fascinating. It is. I mean, I know Ian scrolled through emails. I occasionally played some Yahtzee with friends while I was watching it, but I was still keeping an eye on it. But the thing is, it is still it's one of those pieces of cinema that's so fascinatingly bad with how much famous people are in it that I personally would say watch it once with friends and alcohol and some food with you too, because I think it should be seen by those who are morbidly curious for bad films. Those of you out there who sit there and go, oh, this is a bad film or the worst in history, or I like to watch bad films. Watch this. Watch this. If you want to see what a bad film actually is, that's this. All elements in this film on paper say this should be a solid movie, and it's not. But I would still say watch it at least once with friends just to experience it.
I'll still put this in the entertainingly bad, like The Room and all that stuff, or like you can watch it with friends. I've seen some stuff that is really, really unwatchable.
Yes.
So there's worse. Sean and I were watching this yesterday before both of us went to work, and we did turn into MST3K or riff tracks here. We were just riffing the whole movie as we went, just making fun of it, which to me is the hallmark of a good bad movie. Right. It's actually fun to rip apart. There are movies out there that you don't want to watch even with friends, man. I've seen them, and I'm like, oh, dear God. This is not one of them, at least.
And the room is silent. You can't even come up with roasting lines for it because you're just like, yeah.
Like to me, the most boring is that middle ground, a movie that's just competent enough to not be bad, but just bad enough to not be like even good. And it's a circle. It really is like a circle, because at some point you get so bad that it becomes entertaining. And I feel like the worst kind of movie is the kind of movie that's like, because like it or not, you're never going to forget this movie. You'll try, but you're not going to forget it because it's that bad shit. But there's movies that like I would say are worse than this because you watch them and you were like, that's a perfectly cromulent movie, and you never thought of it again. And I would say that's worse because it's bland and doesn't matter. I sometimes go through my Letterboxd list and I'm like, oh, that movie sounds. Oh, I watched it in 2021 and I don't remember it. I'm going to remember this movie.
Ian, your final thought.
No, I just want that to be on a poster. I'm going to remember this movie.
Actually, Mark, terrible. I'm going to remember this movie.
That's your tagline for this film.
Actually, Mark, before I get my thought, I want to ask, have you ever done a themed month called Historically Bad?
No.
Because you used that phrase. I think you could do like 4 weeks of terrible biopics or something like that.
I might come up with something. We'll see.
But put a pin in that.
Ian's the meme of the guy put the pipe in the bicycle. He's gonna be like, oh God damn it, why did I suggest this?
The pipe in the bicycle.
Where the guy's riding his own bicycle, he's got the pipe, and while he's driving, he puts it in front of his own front tire, and it causes him to flip over his handlebars, and then he's like, oh, why'd I do that? Yeah.
That's what I was referencing.
Something similar happened to me in real life when I was 8. Very much like that. But I don't know the meme. I guess I became the meme somehow. All right, please do. Final thoughts. I want a t-shirt that says I survived Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the movie. And that's it. Joe, enough. You said you'll never forget this movie. I will forget this movie. I will remember that I saw it, and it'll be a cautionary sign, like on my road of pop culture to never take that detour again. Exactly.
Keep driving.
But, damn.
And there you have it, folks. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the Bee Gees film. We have covered it, and yes, we will stick a fork in it. We're done, and now this is where I give my lovely panel the license to shill. So, Joe, do you got anything to shill, sir?
Yeah, December 12th, we're going to have the Joe Bob Briggs Christmas Carnage. I'll look up the title for next week. But yeah, we're going to do our Christmas special. It's 2 icy slasher movies. Let's just leave it at that. I can't reveal what they are, though. Diana Prince may have today.
She dropped a major hint. People were
you
talking
showed the
about
trailer of the movie. Okay.
Whatever.
I'm not going to say what it is because I'm way too low on the totem pole. But go look. That's all I've got to show right now.
Ian?
I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com and right here on YouTube. And yeah, I'm also here on Sunday nights talking about, again, quote unquote movies. Mark, this in the 5 years we've been doing this show together, I feel like this might be the roughest month I've ever had.
Really?
And I thank you for it.
Then back in what was it, August, when we did those post-apocalyptic movies?
Yes, because these movies are longer.
I see
they are longer and they're trying harder. And yes, folks, please check out the links to these wonderful folks. And we have to give a congratulations to Kicking the Seat, Mr. Ian Simmons. He went over 10,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel.
Congratulations, Ian.
So congratulations to you, sir. Very much deserved. So yeah, check out all of their wonderful content. And if you want, head on over to specialmarkproductions.com for my stuff. We got a lot of stuff coming up. Next month is Captivated Audience, in which we are looking at films that involve hostage situations where a person or persons take over a large group of hostages. And so that should be interesting. We're starting off next week with Denzel Washington's John Q, which is also a statement about the medical system in the U.S. So it'll be a very interesting film. Should be a very interesting month as we head in to 2026, where we're going to have Animation Nation. And my other final plug, pardon my shill, is showing myself, but 20 years we will be marking on YouTube starting in 2026. So I'm working on some special programming for that. I've got some other ideas coming up. And yeah, so stick around, like, subscribe, bells and whistles and all that here. And now until next time, folks, we'll just say a good night, everyone.